Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to keep looking at Dark Ascension and we're going to move on and look at Monstrous Surprise, which is the red and green deck. So let's have a look at the deck list. We've got 22 creatures, 7 sorceries, 5 instants, 1 enchantment, 1 artifact, and 24 land. We've got a mana curve off to the side there. Let's dive in and start looking at the deck. So I think actually before I start talking about the cards, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, or the werewolf in the room, I suppose, really. Because if you're familiar with Innistrad in any way, no matter how many times you've been there in your time with the hobby, whether you were there for the original set, as as this was, or Shadows over Innistrad, or Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt, you'll know that on Innistrad, red-green as a colour combination is often associated with werewolves. And it's crazy that I've not actually had a chance to talk about werewolves, really, after looking at, well, this is what, the 8th Innistrad deck now? Is double-faced cards, which premiered in Innistrad, and that was to represent werewolves transforming. You'd play them in their human form, and then if the condition was met, they would transform. You'd flip them to the other side, and then they'd be in their werewolf form. And if other conditions were met, they would transform back to their human form. And that was a big thing in Innistrad to have those double-faced cards. And they definitely caused a stir when they were released. And double-faced cards now are like a really common thing. They get used a lot, in sets, not just in Innistrad. They're used they're used in Magic Origins. They've been used in March of the Machine to represent battles. They're used a lot. And they're good because they represent a really good opportunity to show, kind of like the evolving version of a card. Kind of something that in the past you would have used mechanics like, flip cards or level up, or even like stuff like Threshold, really, to represent a card kind of improving and getting better and changing in some way that can be done better with the dual-faced card. But now we arrive to the problem in that we have a red-green Innistrad deck and we don't have any werewolves in it. And the reason for that is, we will talk about these cards, I promise. I've just got to get this tangent out of the way, just so I guess people understand why we don't have them. Is because dual-faced cards are printed on a separate print sheet. When normal cards print off, it's on a card sheet with all the Magic the Gathering card back on the back and then the normal card on the front. Dual-faced cards need a separate print sheet because they've got rules on both sides. They don't have the traditional card back, which means unfortunately there is additional cost and complexity to doing a print run for one of these pre-constructed decks. And I guess they were just kind of like, oh, it's too much trouble, we won't do it. The other thing as well is, if you have dual-faced cards, sleeves are mandatory. You kind of you either have to have sleeves, or they do workarounds like where you have like replacement cards where you which have a you set your dual face cards off to one side and you mark the front of a placeholder card saying, right, this placeholder card represents this card, and when I draw it and play it, I'll replace it with the dual face card I've set off to one side. You do it that way. So it's not doable in a pre-constructed product where the intent is like be able to play it straight out of the box, because you either provide sleeves, which is again extra cost and complexity, or you provide a bunch of placeholder cards, which again is extra cost and complexity. So that's basically why there wasn't a werewolf precon, and it's why pretty much no precons even today. Really, with like Commander precons, they just don't have dual face cards in them because of the extra sort of cost and complexity of including them. So that's the end of my welcome to my TED talk on dual face cards in Magic the Gathering pre-constructed products. Anyway, that's why. So instead we have this red-green deck, which is, I think, doing the best it can out of what's available. And it focuses on the Undying mechanic. So let's finally start talking about the cards. Sorry for that divergence, but really wanted to make that clear because obviously people associate werewolves with Innistrad, and people were disappointed that there wasn't a werewolf deck, but it is what it is. So let's finally get into talking about these cards. So the foil face rare is Flayer of the Hatebound. So 5/1 red for a 4/2 has the Undying ability. So Undying is when the creature dies, if it has no +1/+1 counters on it, you return it to the battlefield and it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it dies, comes back stronger. And this is basically, I was going to say it's a better version of Persist all the way back from Shadowmoor. It's different, because Persist doesn't work if they have a -1/-1 counter on them, whereas Undying doesn't work if they have a +1/+1 counter on them. So there are enough differences. I'd say overall Undying is just a bit stronger. Just because coming back with the +1/+1 counter is better than coming back with a -1/-1 counter, obviously. So Flayer's ability is whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield from your graveyard, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So you've got a bunch of Undying creatures in here, so they're going to die, they're going to come back with +1 counters on them, and then they'll do damage to any target you want, which is a pretty strong effect, because if this just this on its own, it's coming back and that's 5 damage, and also is then a 5/3, which I feel is pretty strong. So pretty good foil face rare, I think, to have. And then we'll go through a lot of these a lot quicker, because now I've explained Undying, they're all just various sizes. So Nearheath Stalker is just 4 and a red for a 4/1 with Undying, so it comes back as a 5/2, which again is really strong with Flayer of the Hatebound. 2 Pyre Heartwolf, 2 and a red for a 1/1. When it attacks, all your creatures get Menace until end of turn, which is pretty strong, I feel, and has Undying, so it will come back as a 2/2. It's nice that this attack, it's nice that it's got Undying, because you've got to attack with it to get its bonus, but at least you can get this ability twice, because it'll die, give its bonus. Maybe someone blocks the Pyre Heartwolf because they don't want giving board-wide menace all the time. It dies, it comes back, and you do it again next turn. So yeah, it's pretty fun. And also helps tie into what it is, which is red-green aggro. 2 Strangleroot Geists, 2 green for a 2/1 with haste Undying. So this is really strong, actually. Play it turn 2, swing with it for 2. If it gets blocked, then fine. It's going to come back as a 3/2, which is fine. You're getting a lot of value out of it for only 2 green mana. Same with Young Wolf, only 1 green mana for a 1/1 with Undying. So perfect chump blocker, and then it becomes a 2/2. And for 1 green mana, again, it's this thing where your opponent maybe doesn't really want to waste resources on it because it's going to come back stronger. It's pretty cool. I like Young Wolf. A single Lumberknot, 2 and 2 green, 1/1 with hexproof. So it doesn't have Undying, but whenever a creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Lumberknot. You've got a bunch of creatures that are going to die twice. Because they'll die once, come back with their counter with Undying, and then they might die again. So yeah, Lumberknot is getting a lot of benefit out of being in this deck. Then we've got a bunch of cards that care even more about creature dying. So we've got Pitchburn Devils, 4 and a red 3/3. When it dies, it does 3 damage to a creature or player. So maybe a little expensive, but I think having throwing out a lightning bolt when it dies is fairly good, especially I think at common. I think this is fine. A single Rage Thrower, 5 and a red for a 4/2. Whenever another creature dies, doesn't have to be yours, can be any creature, does 2 damage to target player. So this can suddenly really pop off. You have a really big swingy combat, or you do a big sweep spell, which there are a few of in the deck. This can suddenly just hit your opponent for an extra sort of suddenly 6-8 damage really out of nowhere, which is really can be obviously a real surprise. And then 2 Skurstag Cultists, 2 and 2 red for a 2/2. Pay 1 red, tap, sacrifice a creature, does 2 damage to target creature or player. Obviously goes nicely with your Undying creatures, because you'll sacrifice them, they'll come back stronger anyway. And it will obviously help trigger stuff like Rage Thrower and Lumberknot. So yeah, this is a pretty good sacrifice outlet, being able to sacrifice a creature and do a shock. That's all right. 2 Goblin Arsonist, another creature that wants to die, 1 red mana for a 1/1. When it dies, it does 1 damage to target creature or player. Yep, really nice little 1-drop to have in here. 2 Orchard Spirits, 2 and a green for a 2/2. Has parkour, which means it can't be blocked by creatures with flying or reach. This is what I call the parkour ability. If you've got a fun nickname for this ability, please stick it in the comments below. I'd really like to know people's nicknames for this mechanic, where it's kind of half flying, We have flying at home. And then we've got 2 Russet Wolves, 3 and a red, just for 3/3. So yeah, it's hill giant basically, but it's it's a wolf. A little boring in inclusion, but it's fine. It's fine. And then we have a single Gutter Grime. So 4 and a green. So this is the other rare of the deck. 4 and a green enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, which as we've discussed, we're going to having that a lot. Yeah, you put a slime counter on Gutter Grime. Then you create a green ooze creature token on the battlefield with power toughness equal to the number of slime counters on Gutter Grime. So what I like about this is that the power toughness is not set when you create the token. Like, it will constantly check how many counters are on the enchantment, and those slime tokens will keep growing. Obviously if they stick around. So yeah, and again, you're in a deck. I say creatures want to die all the time. So yeah, I think this could end up, sort of producing a small army of slimes, which would be, I think, pretty cool. I think it's a pretty good alternate second rare to have in the deck. 2 Prey Upons, 1 green mana to make a creature you control fight a creature you don't control. Again, this is kind of good in this deck because even if the creature you've chosen that's going to fight, if it's going to die in the fight, if it's got Undying, it's going to come back anyway. So it's fine. Kind of removes the risk of of Prey Upon. So yeah, this is a really good little green removal spell. 2 Wild Hunger, 2 and a green, to give a creature +3/+1 and trample on some turn. It has flashback for only for 3 and a red. So yeah, this is just kind of like a pretty basic like pump spell. It having flashback is quite nice, so you can get it, get 2 castings out of it. I think that's good. Single Naturalize for a bit of utility. Single Overrun, classic Overrun, 2 and triple green to give all your stuff +3/+3 and trample in turn, which is always very, very good. And 2 Rampant Growths, because you've got like some fairly pricey stuff in the deck, so a bit of ramp is very appreciated. Then we've got 2 Flings, so 1 red. As additional cost to cast Fling, you sacrifice a creature and it does damage equal to the sacrifice creature's power to creature or player. Again, this just synergizes really nicely with all the Undying stuff, because you either fling a creature that hasn't died yet and it comes back, it's fine, or you sacrifice a creature that's gotten stronger with the Undying counter and you get another use out of it. So yeah, Fling's pretty solid. And instant speed is actually really, really nice because you've got a creature that's going to like die in combat or to removal anyway. Then yeah, Fling is a perfect kind of a parting middle finger to give to someone. And then 2 Rolling Temblor, 2 and a red. It does 2 damage to each creature without flying. It has flashback for 4 and 2 red. Not such of a risk in here because you've got some fairly smallish creatures in here, but all the small stuff has Undying. So you do this, maybe kill off your stuff, but whatever, it comes back, it's got +1/+1 counters on it. So yeah, again, like nice kind of synergy there, kind of low risk for you. And then a single Greatsword, 3 mana equipment, equip creature that's +3/+0, kind of boring and expensive. The equip being 3 is kind of ridiculous. But I have to keep remember, like, we're way past the days of Bone Splitter, like super efficient early days equipment. This is okay. I get the feeling this is here just kind of fill space. And then 13 Forests and 11 Mountains. So, what could have been? So I think that it's using all the green and red Undying creatures that it can. There's a couple like at Mythic, which you can't use because these decks don't use Mythic rares. But I think it's using the best of what's out there. I would say Gutter Grime is okay. But either of these two, I would have been fine with either of these two as well. So Curse of Bloodletting basically doubles all damage that would be dealt to the enchanted player, which would be perfect in this kind of like red-green aggro deck. Just doubling damage to a player is obviously pretty good. And Feed the Pack as well. This might have been had a bit more synergy. So 5 and a green. At the beginning of your round step, you sacrifice a non-token creature, and if you do, you make X wolf tokens, where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. So again, it's kind of like a sacrifice outlet. Again, another thing for your Undying creatures to kind of be like, oh, well, I died once, but I got better. And then also go wide with a bunch of wolf tokens. This could have been, I would have been happy with either this or Gutter Grime, some sort of token producer. And I thought maybe Gravetiller Worm, so 5 and a green. It's kind of here to represent a lot of like morbid creatures, but I said this one just because it's like the newest one. It was like new in the set. So 5 and a green for a 4/4 trample, which is okay at 6 mana, I suppose. But if a creature has died this turn, which they will, because you've got all your undying creatures with a bunch of kind of sacrifice outlets, then it comes in with 4+1/+1 counters, and then it's an 8/8 trample for only 6, which is pretty good. And it wouldn't have been hard to set up in this deck, I think. So I think definitely this instead of like the Great Sword, because that's just, I don't know, that's just kind of a weak inclusion, I think. So in summary, yeah, I like this one. Considering red-green in Innistrad was really meant to be about werewolves, I think this is actually a pretty good attempt at doing a red-green deck that went in a different way. And I said like do this undying strategy with I think it's pretty good. So yeah, I actually quite like it. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. If you've got any thoughts on it, you've got stories, thoughts, comments, opinions about about this deck, or I don't know, about dual face cards or werewolves, or what, I don't know, how they could have made a werewolf pre-constructed deck work, please stick a comment below. Would love to read those. But we're going to move on, and we're going to look at another Dark Ascension intro pack in the next video. So thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.